Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. My name is Pawel the Cat, your playoff insider, with my wonderful co-host.
Hey, it's Evan REV Renaerts. You can find me at Evan REV Renaerts and my buddy here at hockey_2. Great to be back. Sorry, dude, we didn't pre-meet, so just so everyone knows, so my co-host has sent all the stuff he wants to cover. He has no clue what I want to cover. Some of the stuff he may ask me, I may not know, and vice versa. So let this be a ring-a-ding-dong-dandy because we're going at it tonight, man.
100%. We are in the thick of things. There's a lot going on. This is Season 6, Episode 32 of Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are on X/Twitter. We are on Instagram, we are on YouTube, and we are on Facebook. Go and like us and give us a follow because it really helps us. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in, whether live or later on during the week, or checking out our shorts. We got quite often, a lot of them, all throughout the week on our YouTube page. Go get it a follow. Evan, we've got a lot to get into, lots of playoff talk. Let's get into the first team that got eliminated, the New Jersey Devils. Now, Ray is a fan of the New Jersey Devils. We know Ray has been on the show a few times, partaking and listening in. What do you make of that situation and the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes now advance again after a harrowing kind of experience with Freddie Anderson getting hit by Timo Meier in the head and out from concussion protocol, and now having Pyotr Kochetkov come in relief?
I just kind of, you said I was laughing because you were saying about Ray coming has been on a few times. That's just like saying someone's not an alcoholic when they drink every day. So Ray, if you are out there, you're catching the show late. I know you haven't been catching us live, but hey, shout out, man. We know you've been around for a couple seasons and we appreciate you. Oh man. What's this with running the goalies, eh? There needs to be some repercussion going into next year. I really think you need to put these things in place. We know officiating is a mess. We'll talk about that in some other series. But, I mean, yeah. However, the key here is how many games is it? Is it going to only be one game? Or will it be two games? And they finished early, so it depends on how long these other games go, right? Because it's a mountain pace.
5 games.
So I think the concussion protocol, I believe it's 3 days. Yeah. Or something like that. If you guys know the answer, I don't have it handy, just talking off the top of my head. I believe it's around 3 days or something like that is what we have to prepare for. So he should be back.
I was looking it up, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm laughing. You're pulling it off there.
Would you run? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And I give him an extra Corey Perry show.
So can I just say, I would take Pawel if I was playing net and he ran me. I'd take my glove and I'd shut his mouth finally.
I feel like this would be Ridley Gregg versus Anthony Stolarz. I think there'd be a little bit of animosity pushing back and forth.
Okay, except let's just exchange the height though.
As a goalie, you got to be prepared. You know, you got to be the UC Soros of the Nets. Come on, you got to be able to take a little bit of a big boy onto you, right? Come on, Evan.
All right, man. So
the Canes move on. They potentially wait for their next opponent between the Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens. That game is going on right now. I know Washington's in the lead right now. From my understanding, you guys can let us know the score if you'd like. But either way, go ahead.
Yeah, let me hit something before you move off Carolina. I want to give a stat out there that many people are not familiar with that just happened. So Rob Brind'Amour just made NHL history as being the first coach in his first 7 seasons to win a first-round playoff every season, his first 7. The first time in hockey history. So amazing. By the way, Rob Brind'Amour, thumbs up, man. Just like old Don Cherry said, thumbs up.
He has been an excellent coach for that team, and he continues to help them get into the postseason. However, their ultimate goal is getting back to the Stanley Cup final and seeing if they can win it again when he did it back in 2006. All right, so Washington and Montreal. I got to say, Evan, this has been one of the funnest and wildest series that I've been watching. we had a bench brawl, Tom Wilson and Josh Anderson. We've had some questionable hits, including one that Tom Wilson threw in the last game to get the team. I think it was against William Carrier, and it threw Montreal off because they thought it should have been whistled down, potentially even a penalty. And they win the game, even though it was pretty tight. And I got to say, Evan, I may not be, or I may sound biased, but I got to say that Montreal building is probably the loudest I've ever heard on TV. Those fans are electric. They get into it, and they know how to make that barn rock. That's all I heard from the TV. So I look forward one day to go in that arena. But your thoughts on that series? What Montreal barn means to them?
What feed were you listening to? The Canadian feed?
It was the Canadian Sportsnet feed. Yes.
Yeah. The feed, just so everyone recognizes, when you listen to the sound in an arena, it's the engineers when they're doing the audio engineers, when they're preparing. If you listen to the games, they're remote picking up. And so they can't engineer the sound. And right now that's happening a lot with ESPN. So it's actually affecting the volume. So it feels like a regular season game as opposed to, yes, they're all electric, but it can sound a lot better. All you have to do is look at, we'll talk later about the Kings Oilers. You can see a massive difference in the two calls of the crowd sound.
So you didn't tell me about Washington and what they've been able to do and some of the questionable calls and hits, especially by Tom Wilson being villain number one for the Montreal fandom.
I don't think anything's different. This is what he does. This is where they're going. It's a rough series. I haven't liked the way that there's been a lot of clutching and grabbing and cheating behind the scenes by the Canadians as well. Not some of you Canadian fans won't like that, but I actually am hoping for the Canadians to win this series. It would be a fun opening round, but let's face it, no one really gave them a hope. If anyone bet on them, it was because they were betting on a long shot and trying to make some money. Quick, but it's not quick money. That was a high risk. What is it, like 35-1, something like that?
Now let's quickly. I just want your thoughts on coaching because I know we're going to get into coaching a little bit later. But Martin St. Louis has really coached this team very well, and you see the pieces here that Ken Hughes has really put together for this core. You know, you have your Nick Suzuki's, you have your Lane Hudsons in the back there who are now. You know, kind of the back end power play number one specialist. You know, you have Cole Caulfield kind of in that spot on the side of the net where I think it's usually the right side or left side. He kind of switches back and forth. And of course, Laine's out right now, but sometimes he's played a big part of that role. You see these pieces in Montreal. You know, you have Sam Montembeault in net, who's been dynamic. This guy was about to be fired mid-season this year, if you recall. We talked about it in an earlier episode. And so you think to yourself, this guy gets these kids going. They're not the biggest, I get it. You could definitely tell Washington is much more older, much more experienced, and they've got the size. Yeah. But do you like Montreal's future and what they can bring in the coming years?
How can you not like what's going on right now? Next year, that they're going to be a contender as long as especially when their defense is all healthy, when they've got a full season, when Demendale's got a full year behind him. Right now, he just came in quite fresh, coming right into it, right? So everyone all excited the first game. You guys shouldn't. I get it when he started in the last game of the season, but don't expect that in the playoffs. Totally different game, everyone. So I think that there's nothing but good signs. That I do wonder about their goaltending still. I just don't feel like they're solidified there. They think Montembeault is the answer. I just, that's not my fave. But, you know, I feel Montembeault is about, let's just say he would be 1A to Stuart Skinner's 1B, essentially.
Interesting take. Yeah, I mean, you know, he still has a lot of room to grow. He was
a lot of offense, though, eh? A lot of offense.
He was one of the 3 goalies picked for 4 Nations, so clearly Doug Armstrong, the GM of the St. Louis Blues, did see something in him. You can chuckle all you want.
It was in Montreal. It was in Montreal. It was a French folk. Come on.
You could have picked Nick Suzuki as your depth forward, and you didn't. You went for this.
He's not French. It was a French, not French team, French man. The guy is a francophone. Oh, what do you mean it doesn't matter? Oh my goodness.
I disagree.
It's all about favorite. So you think everybody on that team deserved to be there?
Do I deserve? Well, they won, so clearly they did. But I would have picked a few.
Hang on, they deserve to be there because they won. Come on. They could have had better players.
I had different players picked, but I wasn't the one making the team. And credit to the Team Canada for picking the best guys because they won it all. He didn't play, but he was part of that winning culture, and that helps build confidence and leadership. But that's just me.
I guess you're right. He did a lot to help the team so they could learn how to score during practice.
He played on the ice. He was in warm-ups. He got him going.
Well, that's right. You're right. So they scored every goal on him during practice when he can't stop anything, and that made them have confidence during the whatever.
You're just upsetting the whole bunch.
This is going to be a long night. No, the team. All he's got to do is perform at a .905 save percentage, and that team has a great future. Their defense are lining up really well. I see Montreal next year and for sure being a top 10, 12 team for sure.
I mean, he is 28, so he is getting up there in age, but we know that goaltenders take a little bit longer. He's got this year in this regular season a .908, right? So that's not bad, Evan.
I love getting up there in age, 28 years old. You're an old, and imagine if you were playing in the NHL, you would be an old man.
Be the Corey Perry of old men. That's where I am. The Brett Burns is just not as skilled. Moving over a couple cities, we've got the Battle of Ontario, which has been pretty wild. A lot of momentum swings. And Evan, after Game 5, everyone in Toronto feels like the world is falling and crumbling. And all of a sudden, there's a panic. I'm not panicking yet for Toronto. I think they still have a chance to close this out. But I want to know your thoughts on the game because I did watch both games, and I found that Toronto played very well in Game 4. Of course, Ottawa brought it. And in Game 5, they just looked lackluster. Granted, they had their chances, but Olmark was on, and what's it called? Ottawa Senators wanted it more. That's what I saw. Now, none of the four scored. There's a lot of stats out there that say their power play in the last elimination games is 0-30. And the last time a power play was scored was in 2018 by Patrick Marleau. So, it's definitely daunting. There's a lot of noise. What did the Toronto Maple Leafs have to do tomorrow night in order to get over this hump? And is it enough to sway the doubters?
Well, I think they have to get out of their own minds right now. Right now, it's like they're saying, I thought a senator. I did saw a senator. It's just like, I don't know what it is. It's like when they talk about that curse, that cup curse, it's like becomes so real for them to believe. They need to just bring in a bunch of psychologists that actually can teach on understanding how to overcome your anxieties and your fears, and to teach them to learn how to self-talk because they're gripping their sticks. I mean, their play is good. They should be winning. And yes, you'll have a good game here or there, but a couple of their wins, Senators goaltending wasn't as good. So just because now the Senators have good goaltending, meaning good, that means just like 9-10. They don't even have to have outstanding 930, 940 goaltending. So I do find it weird. Maybe right now, Leafs Nation, you need to get on your knees. You need to light some candles. You need to put some money in the box and say some prayers or whatever you do. And you need to pray to the hockey gods that you know or don't know, or you need to exercise some demons, playoff demons that could be, because right now, even if they win this game, this next game, they will still have that in the back of their head. I'm worried going into the next round. And what chances are they get Florida?
Florida.
It's just like, I'm sorry, guys. Leafs Nation, Did you not pick them for the next round also?
I did. I picked them in 6. So my bracket has been pretty good so far, minus Florida overtaking Tampa. So we'll get into that series in just a sec. But I agree with you. Toronto needs to just get out of their heads. Here's the thing, though. It does come down to the core 4, and there's a few times where you watch some of their plays in the defensive zone, especially when you watch William Nylander kind of not skate versus Nick Cousins in that race back, and that creates the 2-on-1, and it creates the shorthanded goal by Dylan Cousins. And shout out to Ottawa for picking up Dylan Cousins. The guy, had a hard time breaking through in Buffalo. He did play well, but it just didn't seem like it was going his way. All of a sudden, he gets traded for Josh Norris, and he's lighting it up, and he's in the playoffs. And I remember, Evan, and this is how old I am, in the World Juniors for Team Canada, and how electric and dynamic and fast he was, right?
Yeah,
he will fill up. He's going to get bigger, but he can move the puck. He can shoot. He's a two-way kind of guy, like a young Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Still has some time to develop, but really, you can't leave Dylan Cousins open like that. But again, all the other pieces in that locker room have been changed. You have a new coach, Craig Berube. You have Chris Tanev. Oliver Ekman-Larsson has been phenomenal for that team. Simone Benoit, who's been an unsung hero as a defenseman for the Maple Leafs. You have these guys who have come in, but the core 4, Matthews, Marner, who's in a contract year, Tavares, contract year, and Nylander, who's there. You guys got to perform. You got to be learn to deal with the pressure, because you're in your own barn. You got home ice. That's why you got it. But I worries. But credit where credit is due. Give it up for the Ottawa Senators and their captain, Brady Tkachuk, who came back on the ice after they won Game 4, tapped his stick on the ice and screamed to the crowd, "We're going to be back here for Game 6." That, although it's not that far-reaching or that much of a stretch to compare, and I'm not saying that Brady Tkachuk is SCA, but that whole we'll be back and we're gonna win, that kind of embodies that passion and that determination, and you need that in order to advance in the playoffs.
It's wonderful to see the Battle of Ontario starting to build. It's nothing but good for hockey when we actually see this. So I love it. It's exciting. We both got just so you guys know, there's a Leaf jersey behind me. There's a Leaf jersey behind Pawel tonight. Guys, it's not like we don't want to see them move on, but we will jump on board and bring mention. So if you're checking this out for the first time, you've never watched it, or you just haven't caught the whole show or know us well enough, you got to know we do this with all teams. We'll do it. We're from the Edmonton region. We'll do it with even the Oilers. We'll say things about them. We'll talk like sometimes we're not even a fan of the team. We do that with every team because we want to represent your views. So understand, and just like our guests come on the show and they'll go, "Oh, you're a Boston fan," or "You're a Vegas," because we see our jerseys. It's all a part of hockey, guys. We're all about hockey. Hey, why don't we do this? We got lots of NHL stuff. Why don't we move over and just take a few minutes a little bit earlier? Hey guys, like the pass jersey. There you go. And he even knows the number. You can tell he's a fan. Way to go, Kyle, man. Keep up, guys. If you want to follow Kyle, you got to go check out what he's got going on. Kyle, can you throw in the chat? Just put in where people can follow your podcast as you cover NFL.
That's his podcast. It's phenomenal. Yeah. He's going through the NBA playoffs right now, which has also been quite exciting. There's nothing like playoff sports in general. I don't care what league it is. You see the elevation of the game. And there's been some highlights in the NBA. If Kyle knows exactly what's been going on, especially with the Milwaukee Bucks, if you guys know. Speaking of just quick NBA, I don't know if you saw that quick video online, Evan, of the Shaquille O'Neal coming out after Edmonton won in LA and rubbing, going, Zach Hyman, Connor McDavid. In the TNT studio. It was phenomenal. But go ahead, you were going to say.
Okay, no, we're ready to we're going to cover some other news just because we're already 21 minutes in. Want to make sure we're not just talking NHL, and then we're going to come back to more NHL news. So let's now go to Around the Rink. If you're a fan of hard-hitting, exciting hockey, catch the Kalkaska Battlers.
Around the Rink
is brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers. Let them be your local hockey heroes. All right, so some of the stuff that people are not really as familiar with right now, we talk about me and Pawel, and I always like to joke. And he says, "Hockey's back, baby," and he's talking NHL. So when he talks timing, so if you follow anything else, it's because he loves the NHL. It is the best league in the world. But many of you love the passion of the junior games and or of your Euro leagues and SHL and so forth. So I do just want to bring a mention right now because not everyone is as familiar. We haven't given a lot of attention since the breakup of the AJHL. We've given the BCHL a lot of attention. Can I just say there is a reason sometimes. I'm not going to give a lot of attention to a league that we try to bring people on and they don't give us a, like, if you don't come on, how can we promote you? I don't know as much information outside of the outside sources of information that travels. So if you are a JHL, if you have connections in the AJHL or anywhere in the Canadian Junior Hockey League across Canada, we're not against any team or any league. We like to promote you, but write us, send out to at two guy. It's two, at, no, it's not at, is it? I can't even get it right. Two Guys Hockey Talk, not and, but Two Guys Hockey Talk.com. I can't remember right now. No, at gmail.com. There we go. So anyway, so let me update everybody who's been following the Canadian Junior League. So right now, the Calgary Canucks, we want to congratulate the Calgary Canucks. They have won the Inter Pipeline Championship in Alberta. They won 4-0 against the Grand Prairie Storm. This is their second year in a row. Now, remember, there were some teams that had left. We'll talk about them from the BCHL in a bit. Now, in Saskatchewan, the SJHL champs were the Melfort Mustangs. They also repeated. You notice something what happens a lot of times in the junior leagues. They'll usually get a 2 or a 3 year run. So there is possibilities to see a three-peat is almost impossible. As well as in Manitoba. So for those that are from Manitoba, and we get quite a few of you guys following us, especially out of Winnipeg and Brandon, and some up in Steinbach and Flin Flon. But the Steinbach Pistons have actually been swept. Steinbach, no, you guys thought I was going to say that. No, they got beat by the Winkler Flyers. So the Flyers have won the championship. Now, there's a bunch of other teams. I was just trying to get through just before I got on, just because I was running a little late for tonight. So essentially, they're all going to play in a 10-team, what's called the Centennial Cup. Okay, so all the winners of the junior teams will come together, plus the host city, much like the Memorial Cup in Major Junior. So they're all going to be coming together. We will keep you updated on the Centennial Cup. Again, these are things you might not know, but the Canadian Junior Hockey League is in conjunction with Hockey Canada. So because they're with Hockey Canada, that means there is a league that will not be represented, and that is called the BCHL, who does not want to follow the Hockey Canada guidelines. So they're called a non-sanctioned league. That means none of their players can play for Hockey Canada specifically. Now, the BCHL is down to the Final Four. Now, Pawel, I want to get your thoughts on this. The Final Four right now are going to be the Chilliwack Chiefs versus the Victoria Grizzlies, and the other is the Penticton V's versus the Brooks Bandits, okay, out of formerly the AJHL, who moved over last year. So the Penticton V's last year, they're moving. They could potentially win this all. And the Chilliwack Chiefs have been granted a potential next WHL franchise, and they're in the Final Four. And can I just remind, and I want to get your thoughts around this, because the AJHL, the moment they heard someone was leaving, to the BCHL, they immediately suspended all those clubs and kicked them out of the league and no longer let them play, because everyone said, well, you can't play and win a championship and then defect to another league. Well, isn't that what Penticton's doing? Isn't that what potentially should? And the BCHL is going about their business, and everyone says, oh, they're bad. Guys, no, the BCHL just does what's best for the kids, whether you believe it or not. So anyway, what's your thoughts on that? How the AJHL handle it versus how BCHL. They're not complaining at all. And these guys are in their championship finals.
Yeah, it's a little questionable to see that this is happening. I mean, at the end of the day, there's always going to be some rumblings and business happening in the background that, these kids can't control. Like, these kids aren't the ones in the boardrooms making these decisions. They just want to play hockey. They want the best opportunity that they can get, and maybe it's them and their families.
Okay.
And they want to represent their community. So the way I see it is that, they better figure this out after the season is done. So there's a little bit more clarity. And I'm not a lawyer, Evan. I just play one on TV. I'm just kidding, but but maybe, and I don't know. Look up on ChatGPT. But like, how do you figure out to make a detailed contract to figure out all these clauses and issues so that you don't have this problem further down the line?
But here's a question. We know that how the AJHL just kicked them out, and now we see how the WHL just comes in, and they didn't even wait till the end of the season, right? And it just came out, and the BCHL handled it differently. What do you think of the two different handlings? Now, we're sitting here. We can say whatever we want, and it doesn't make us right, everybody. But I am interested in your opinion.
I honestly don't know enough about the whole situation that I can give a valid answer about this situation. I just think, like, I don't know, like, if the WHL is picking up what someone else dropped, the AJHL dropped, that's on them, right? I mean, the way I see it is that you drop the ball, you kick them out. Somebody's loss is someone else's treasure. So, you got to go where you can have an opportunity to play and make an impact. That's how I see it. But, again, I need more information about this. You do more research about the juniors and the young folks. So that shows your insight into that level of hockey. If you guys
this had nothing to do with insight. I just get in your opinion because everyone had an opinion whether it was okay to kick those teams out and not have a champion that's leaving them. And I'm asking the same. And I just posted here that I'm calling you political Pavel because you don't have an answer. You just talked your way around that because you're scared to take a stand.
I think people have had enough politics for a while. Or maybe I'm just maybe I'm just projecting. But that's there was been in the last little bit. I kind of want to get back to hockey colors, not political colors.
Yeah. So, hey, let's just move over to professional now from junior. And we know there was news last week. We announced it. And now the news came out in the PWHL. And we didn't even get to really talk about this because our question was, and I believe you might have heard the same thing, that there was talk because we knew there had to be another team, yet they didn't act like there was another team. But a new PWHL team, another one, is being added for next year. So there will be a rival to Vancouver. Go ahead and tell everyone.
That's right. Seattle will be getting its own team as well. So they're expanding in the West Coast of the U.S. and Canada. It looks like they're going to grow, and then they're probably going to go inward. I know we had talked about both Detroit and Calgary potentially being an option, and they still could. And it's not to say they're out of the running. I think a lot of it is just they're trying to figure out a lot of the infrastructure. And one of the things that people may not know about Calgary is that they've already started building their new arena. So that could be one of the reasons that there's a bit of a setback for that team. Now, the PWHL did announce through AP, Alternative Press, the newspaper, that there will be 2 more teams announced next season. So that's when they're leaving it for. It could be 2 other cities, but for now we're getting Vancouver and Seattle. It's the West. And when the PWHL did their tour across Canada, they did have a game. I believe it was Toronto versus Montreal in Vancouver. It was 19,000 people sold out. So clearly there's an appetite for hockey. Seattle's been known for other women's sports, and it wants to pursue and grow more franchises. And it's also due to the success of the Seattle Kraken. Now, on the ice, they've struggled this year, but the team has been very well supported by Seattlers. Is it Seattlers, Evan? Seattleans?
Seattleans. I think it might be the Seattleans, like kind of like what do they call them? The Atlanteans. Interesting enough. So I just did a quick Climate Pledge Arena. The exhibition game was 12,608. And I know a lot of fans were saying, oh, well, why did Vancouver get it? Seattle had a massive sellout. Guys, it was 12,006, which is great. great. If they can get over 10,000 to regular season games in Seattle, if you can get over 8,000, it's still great. Difference is, and like you mentioned last week, they're going to play at the old Pacific Coliseum, right?
Yeah.
So around it,
which is good that I've been to that Coliseum. It's a good Coliseum. I saw a monster truck show there. It was really fun. But you got to also remember, Evan, this isn't the NHL where it's 82 games a season. They're on average 30 games from November to May. So it's a little bit less. So they're slowly building up their league. They're trying to build interest. They're trying to attract fans, try to attract ticket holders, right? And it's just another way to connect with the community, build in the community, and give more opportunities, not only on the ice for players, but off the ice for video coaches, managers, GMs, business leaders, things of that nature. So
it's exciting.
Anybody listening in the PWHL, please, we'd love to support you. Come on the show, talk about it. We'd love to share clips, ideas, whatever it is. We love the women's hockey. I mean, we love all hockey. And so that's what we just wanted to pass along. Your thoughts on the expansion?
Yeah, so it was inevitable. You couldn't go with one team in the West only. You needed two. I believe the next two teams being called will also be in the West. So let's see who those teams are. I'm really curious. This will be some opportunity. So what we'll probably do as we get further into the playoffs in about another month, we'll start talking more about some speculation and have some fun around different names we're hearing. What's the possibilities around that? So if you're following, guys, that's it for Around the Rink.
If you're a fan of hard-hitting, exciting hockey, catch the Kalkaska Battlers.
Around the Rink
is brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers. Let them be your local hockey heroes.
So speaking of a little bit around the rink, but NHL based, it looks like the Utah Hockey Club has accidentally revealed their name and then trolled with fans by taking down that name, only for it to be found on their YouTube page, not to be mistaken with the Two Guys in Hockey Talk page, which you should go check out, follow, and subscribe. But it looks like they will be called the Mammoth, Evan. And so your thoughts on the name, because they accidentally revealed it, just the way they did with the PWHL with the store showcasing Vancouver. Your thoughts on
I know. Yeah, I love it. I think the Mammoth is I think they wanted to connect to like to a something big, something tough, like a big woolly mammoth. They liked Yeti. There was issues with the name Yeti because of the actual the companies and all that. They could have fought all that. They could have went around.
The partnership. Think about the partnership if you had it with them. I know I mentioned that.
I don't think they want to share that partnership. I think Ryan Smith has made a living not sharing. I hate to say it that way, but good for him though. I mean, the guy deserves it. He's taking all the risks with it. So I love the name. The logo I originally saw earlier when they were showing different logos potentially. I hope it's not what I saw, because it's not that good of a. They have a lot of really cool ideas they can add. So I really hope they take advantage. But can I just say, I'm starting to feel when I watch the team, I feel like I'm watching Winnipeg or Seattle play, because their uniforms, the color coordination right now, I hope they change up the color coordination a little bit more. You know what I would love, and they're not going to do this, go to the Jazz colors. Stick to the colors that people are used to in the NBA already. You're playing, it's under the same ownership. I just think that's even the Los Angeles Kings. Return to the Lakers colors, guys. Get back to those colors, or at least go with the colors, of the Clippers. Or there's just something to a city. I know a lot of cities don't do that, and some cities do. I think when you keep most of them, so if you think Pittsburgh, they worked really hard. So if you think of the Pittsburgh Pirates, you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Pittsburgh Penguins, you got that black and yellow, right? That black and goldish look, or whatever you want to call it. You can shy off from it. So, but anyway, I think it's great. I'm glad they got a name. You know what? They didn't have to wait a year to do this. They could have just named them the Mammoth right off the start. Now, all those poor suckers bought that first-year jersey going, I have a collectible. Good luck selling your collectible unless the team can win a few Stanley Cups in its first 10 years. And I have a feeling it's going to be a while because, as I've said in years past, I just do not think they got the right management and or coaching team in place. I think they'll always be good, hardworking, but they're not going to take you over the top. Which
go ahead.
No, I was going to say you were going to make a comment, obviously, before
I was going to say I've heard rumblings that they're going to try to go after a big free agent like a Marner, if they can, of course. If he doesn't resign in Toronto, they're going to try to get a big fish if they can, or a big name to bring over again, like they did with the Sergachev trade. I think they're really looking for something to really bolster their offense. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking you made a really good point. They might want to go after the big fish, but unfortunately they can't. The Kraken are going after the big fish.
Okay.
If you guys get that, it's a joke. Harbor? They're the Kraken, the harbor, the lake, the big fish. Okay, whatever. Should we move? Should we move around the coaching stories?
We should. There's been quite a few changes since we last were connected.
Let's go back to back. Let's do it.
Let's start with your Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yes.
There's parting with Mike Sullivan and the Pittsburgh Penguins. They talked about it. They separated. So it's a mutual agreement, mutual partnership. It sounds like he wasn't looking around to stick around for a rebuild or a retool or whatever you want to call it in Pittsburgh. Sidney Crosby was connected about the situation with Kyle Dubas. And when Kyle Dubas did sign that 7-year deal, he knew that either they can go all in on it or they're building for the future. And it looks like they're building for the future given how low they fell this year, even though you see how well and competitive Crosby is, to the point where he's now still practicing with some of the guys on the team getting going. So your thoughts on Mike Sullivan and why he's going to end up a New York Ranger?
Hey, you've been reading my expos, haven't you?
I have.
So everyone, if you followed us early year, I wondered last trade deadline, but I said likely not. And then the beginning of this year, I said before trade deadline or right after or at the end of season. Knew this was happening. This was the plan. He wasn't going to last. He doesn't want to continue with a team that's not going to make the playoffs. Right now, they're not making it next year. I think you're looking at one more. They want this year with some of the prospects. They want to go one more year in. And then once they get one more year in, remember next year, there's the top 3 picks. There's some really good picks. And then the next year, there's a couple. So this is not a rebuild. We'll call it a retool. They're not going to get, I do think they're going to move Carlson. But we're back on Sullivan. So Sullivan, remember, he's a veteran coach right away. So he's already been sought out by the New York Rangers. That has been confirmed. So they're seeking out, I don't even know if it started right now, but they were seeking him out for an interview because it's the moment that it came up, the call. Can I just say, I think some calls were made previously. I think there was some hush, hush, wink, wink. I'm going to say he's the front runner for the New York Rangers. Remember, the Rangers will not use, they have never gone for young guys. They want experienced coaches. They do have a very good team who is underachieved. That's what Sullivan does. He takes not an older team. That's the problem that they ran into in Pittsburgh. They have a team. They got great prospects there that he's really good at working. Look at a lot of their AHL system. So Sullivan, if not, you guys ready? I do have another landing spot that I believe that he is also interviewing for a position in Boston. Yep, right behind you. And there is potential that could he, and I don't know how long this will wait, but how fast, and we're going to go over there in a little bit, will he interview for the position now that's vacant in Vancouver? But I believe that position is going to go to Peter Laviolette. I think they're going to interview him. That's who I'm expecting in Vancouver. So we'll see. We'll see. That. Remember, part of this is a big fish you have to land, and then they move on to the others. And the question is, I do not see him going with a team like the Kraken. I think they're just too many years away. I don't think it's a lot different than where he was. He wants to land in a hockey market. if he's going to continue around it. So anyway,
I agree with you. I'm surprised about Peter Laviolette in Vancouver. That'd be an interesting go. Of course, Rick Tocchet does not resign. He opts out.
Let's talk about that.
And so it's possible he may go somewhere else. He's kind of determining his future. We've linked him before, as other media members have, to Philadelphia. Funny enough, Jim Rutherford said that he did not hear from Quinn Hughes after that discussion negotiated. It fell through. He's like, he's probably golfing or something, which, again, you have a lot of questions
because he always answers my call, right? That was what he said.
So clearly, I mean, you want to be able to keep your captain happy. We talked last week about, him potentially tampering, even though it wasn't tampering, but, just says whatever he thinks on his mind, which it's Zylstra's got lots of opinions tonight. It must be an election. Yeah. You mean fake promises? Just kidding. I'm going to move on from this, but
let's go a little further in. So Tocchet makes it known that he needs to think of his family.
Yes.
So let's get away. There's a lot of you Canucks fans that are going on about how, or even anti-Canuck fans saying how the franchise is cheap. Okay. We'll talk about that in a little while, about Tom Wielander and the rookie contracts and all that later. But first of all, number one, no, they were going to make him one of the highest paid coaches in the league. Now, there is rumor right now that the $5 million could be at $7 million. By the way, another reason, think of Sullivan and think of the New York Rangers. Could he become the highest paid coach in the NHL? But going back to, that wasn't the issue. And there is talk that's around about, because of no practice facility and stuff like that. Guys, a coach doesn't leave because he doesn't think there's a good practice facility. There's a lot of talk that he did not like the JT Miller going out situation. He was not a supporter of Pettersson and Pettersson's lack of not coming prepared for this season, being out of shape, not putting the hard work in. And of course, after, look what happens to the team. And they only miss. If they could have won 5-6 more games, they would have been in the playoffs instead of the Minnesota Wild. So just looking at that, this was really about Tocchet saying, I don't want this and I want to move on. But I know Jamie Bascow, and if you're following Jamie, I just want to throw out there, I know that you didn't think that the partnership bringing a Tocchet would be good because it would be too close to someone like, to someone like Torts, who just left. However, can I just say this? I think that he is their second option, because there was another option. Why don't you mention to people about Chicago who thought they might have their coach?
For sure. They were looking at David Carl, and they were aggressive in terms of pursuing him. It looks like they were kind of in deep discussions for a contract, but then he withdrew his application from the team. I mean, he's got a young family. He's starting up something new there. I don't know if he's ready for that. And I think the problem is there's a lot of debate right now in the Chicago world, in the Blackhawk fandom, about where the team is at and what step they should take next forward. Are they ready to be a little bit more competitive, or are they ready to be, still a bottom feeding team next season after given what was happening this year and they were supposed to take a step?
Yeah.
Or are they much closer than people really think in terms of getting to potentially a wild card spot? Just, keeping in contact, kind of the Montreal, right? If you believe that they have the right pieces, which they picked up a few. You got your goalie in Spencer Knight. Bedard's now coming into his third year. You have Frank Nazar, who's been electric there. You have some big pieces there, but, some of them didn't land. But where is Chicago at? And I don't know if that's the reason why David Carl stepped away from it. But it looks like they lost on the guy that they really wanted.
It sounds like, so David Carl, so if you guys don't know, he's out of the NCAA, has not been an NHL coach, but he makes a lot of money in the NCAA. So coming just on a $3 million, I don't know the numbers. It's being insinuated to me that he is probably making 3-4, and he could go back this year and then wait another year. There's just a lot of opportunities to select you normally wouldn't want, but he wants to have more pull, my understanding. He wants to make more decisions, so he doesn't come in on a weak team either. It was believed he was the front runner, the choice that the Philadelphia Flyers would want. That's why Tocchet would be their second. So if they can get David Carl, and this is purely speculation now, because Chicago's out, could the Flyers be in? Is that a place that he'd want? And then let's move over to one more place. Could David Carl like a place, the Big B? Could that be a good landing? Because stay close to home, right? That could be a place. Now, the only difference is he cool with that, with the build? And likely, if he can land, and maybe this is, a lot of times they want to offer a 3-year. Maybe he's going for a 5-year. What if he's asking for a 5 and 5, like a Babcock deal that a while back, right? So, and then the Chicago overfill, my belief was Chicago had David Carl, then second would be Peter Laviolette. That would be the option. But everything's really quiet in Chicago since David Carl stepped back, so not sure what's really happening on those numbers. But so go ahead.
No, we'll finish.
I was going to say Seattle. Who goes to Seattle? It's a mess.
Yeah.
Do you think that
after a while? I don't know what they're thinking. And also, Ron Francis recently got promoted to president of hockey operations. So
sounds like a Kevin Lowe thing, eh? Sounds like Kevin Lowe, where they just moved him up.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Seattle because they were supposed to take a step forward. They personally internally liked what their offseason guys brought, like Brandon Montour, who comes off a Stanley Cup win and signs an 8-year deal. You go after Chandler Stevenson, who had a good year, but if you're expecting him to be your top number one center, that's a lot to expect of him. You have Matty Beniers take a bigger step.
Yeah. I thought, just a thought. We talked about, I think he may like a better landing spot, but think of close to home. And if you did not know, Ken Holland still has interest. He's not done yet. My understanding is he would have continued with the Oil. So now, again, there was things that made it more complicated, but when Jackson came in, there was going to be a change. He was going to pick his guy moving on. Regardless, Oiler fans, you're only where you are because of Holland. Get it right. I know as much as you hate him, he did way more good for you than he did anything bad. The other thing is he is, right? He's a Vernon guy. So if you think about it, he's from the BC. So a little trip down to Seattle is not far. Mm-hmm. Could that be a good landing spot with maybe a 3-year contract going down to Seattle and working with someone like Ron Francis, who has a deep history with, and helping build remember, he builds systems.
Yeah.
He's really good at building down below and likes people to ripen. That's kind of the Ron Francis mold. So this is speculation, but maybe that could be a good connection.
For sure. I agree with you. I think you'd be interested. Now, just to quickly get back to Boston.
So I got to say this because I know Zill's listening. Maybe Zill, Rutherford, and Elvin will leave the Canucks, and then Holland's close to Vancouver and can go there.
Are you trying to rile up Vancouver Nation? You're just going to make it more chaotic than it is. You just threw an anvil and a landmine. So speaking of the Bruins, because I know we kind of got off to a few different coaches, and we talked about Joe Sacco as being one of those coaches. Grant Cummings, one of our writers, he wrote an article recently. Go check it out on the Bruins season review, because there's a lot to kind of unpack there. There's been some interesting moves that the Bruins have done. We'll see if Joe Sacco gets a chance, or if the Bruins are going to be aggressive and try to get back to the postseason next year. I mean, they provided that big, long, worded response to their fans, to the media about how this year wasn't the best. It kind of fell apart. They did what they could. And that Don Sweeney is going to try to address some of the concerns. Now, you're going to have a healthy Jeremy Swayman, who's going to come in and potentially no more contract issues. David Pastrnak could potentially become the captain. Zadorov really fitting in, and Elias Lindholm. They got big tickets. and they got to start performing a little bit better. And of course, getting a few more good prospects in the draft. But the thing I wanted to kind of go through things, Evan, is that we got to give some young guys a chance to coach, some new guys, some fresh blood. You look at Chris Knobloch in Edmonton, what he's been able to do. And I'm sure New York is probably kicking themselves for letting Edmonton take him as a head coach. But you can't keep recycling the same old coaches. And speaking of recycling old coaches, it sounds like there's a lot of reporting out of Anaheim that they're very aggressive and interested in having Joe Quenneville go there. And there's been a lot of backlash from Ducks fandom about not really wanting this. So your thoughts are this: will Joe Quenneville finally get back in the NHL given that Bowman is there? And do you think it's the Ducks or someone else takes a chance on him like a Seattle?
Wow, I never thought about Seattle thing. If the Verbeek and Quenneville have history, so that would make sense. And again, if you're a Ducks fan, please just understand, I'm not railing you guys or speaking ill of the Ducks organization fans, but there's very few fans that are going to have kickback that even know the stories out of the Chicago Blackhawks going back to the Kyle Beach days. I think it's the easiest place for him to land. I think he's the best coach to take you to where you need to go. It might be the best place to enter back into the NHL that does that. So that makes sense to me. However, if not, Ron Francis, I could see, because remember, though, there was some stuff around Ron Francis when we go back. Trying to remember who was the coach that went to Calgary, and then he was let go because of actions from behind.
Bill Peters.
Bill Peters came out of Carolina, and there was stuff that was said to have been covered up by Ron Francis. Now, I'm not saying Ron did. Okay, there was just rumors of things that happened. So Ron's been kind of involved in some different, more shady type stuff or around the team, and he doesn't really care about that stuff. He sticks to what he believes is the facts. So maybe the Quenneville thing would work in Seattle. I can say, if Seattle can land Quenneville, that would be a prize for them, because I think that would be a wonderful landing spot if Francis is open to making that happen. But remember, they're looking for a GM now. So who is going to be the GM? And that's why I wonder about, could they bring Ken Holland, and then Ken Holland brings in Joe Quenneville? Well, now we're making you Kraken fans start thinking. You might have some good workings in the makings.
I'm also going to give you one other name for a coach that I think people often forget about or omit, even though there's a few names like Todd Nelson. But think about Jay Woodcroft. He's worked in a few places, including with Edmonton. I mean, he started in Detroit, but I see a team taking a chance on him, especially one like a Ducks, wanting some young prospects to develop skill, or a Chicago, right? So there's definitely some opportunity there for Jay to get back in the game, and he definitely has a good way of connecting with young people. Go ahead.
So originally, not sure where we're looking here, but originally my thing was, if Sullivan's gone, Woodcroft could be in. It'd be interesting if Kyle Dubas has any connections with Jay Woodcroft, because that could be a place of land. Again, that's purely speculation. If Sullivan had gone earlier, I think that would have been an easy thing when they were still working towards being competitive. But he does know how to work the system. He is good with young players, Roger McGrody, all those type players that they have coming in the system, the new draft picks. Remember, they're going to be drafting high. So they're looking at, a good pick coming up this year and likely another year or two. So that could be potentially there too. Honestly, I like to see Jay Woodcroft land in Chicago, but I haven't heard any connections to Chicago yet.
For sure. And speaking of series that we discussed, it sounds like the Washington Capitals have won, and they are advancing to face the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round. Props to Montreal, and a big shout out to David Savard for a heck of a career. He did announce prior to the season start, or the series starting, that he would be retiring after these playoffs. So heck of a career. Great for him. Good luck to him in the future Incredible series. Now, to get on
We
to
only,
the last
we,
little bit,
yeah, I was going to say we only have 4 or 5 minutes.
so let's
And
get back to the final few series. All the ones in the West are 2-2. We'll start quickly with Winnipeg and with St. Louis and how it's tied up. They played tonight.
You cover that
for a second time. It looks like the pressure's getting to Hellebuck. He's had a hard time. He's been pulled. The team has not played well in front of him. Give credits to the St. Louis Blues, who have come out flying. Braden Shen looks like he's on another level again after Trey talks of him potentially leaving. And, Jim Montgomery, Evan, like a coach that was let go by the Boston Bruins, and people said it was his fault. And I remember some people in our chat saying that it's Jim Montgomery's fault that the team is that bad. And yet here he is potentially trying to push his team for another deep run. But this has been an interesting series. I had St. Louis in 7. I think these teams are evenly matched, but you've got the best of both goalies. You just need Hellebuck to clutter out the noise like Toronto, like we talked about earlier, and you need his team to play better in front of him and put the puck in the net. I'd like that top line with Scheifele and Iafallo and Kyle Connor, but you need more from your depth guys, including your defensemen. Your quick thoughts on this series?
I'll leave it at that with your thoughts. We got too much to cover.
All right. Let's get to the Minnesota Wild
okay, you cover that. We're not going to have enough time, so I want to talk about the Vegas. That you're going to Vegas and Wild right now.
Minnesota Wild and Vegas.
Okay. Yeah. Don't ask my opinion. I'm just going to tell you 2 things I want to talk about. So you share your opinion, and then I'll finish it off.
All right. Well, it's 3-2 for Vegas. They've won it. The last game in overtime. I know Fleury came in. Even though Gustafsson had a good series so far, it's been one of the funnest and underrated series these playoffs. I don't think people are paying as much attention as they should. And I think that Minnesota's not getting enough credit, especially that top line. And I got to shout out Boldy and Kaprizov because they are playing unreal. They are carrying that team. They are the two-headed dragon of the Minnesota Wild, and good for them. We talked about Ziam Buum last time. Great kid, but they need more. They need more depth scoring because that's the problem with this team. Vegas, I mean, they show you why they're a contender every year, and how can you not bet against the Golden Knights?
Well, let me hit in on the only thing I want to talk around in this series is not the great series and the hard-hitting and hard-working games. That it's been a wonderful series around it, but I want to talk about for a moment around the refereeing and the NHL. And that is, I want you guys to think about this. The Vegas Golden Knights are the least penalized team. Have you ever watched them? There's no way they can be the least penalized team when all they do is clutch and grab and stick and hack and whack, cross-check. Hey, that's cool. A bunch of teams do that. But for some reason, they don't get called. And then the other thing I want to talk about is offside calls, disallowing goals. You ready? The rule of the offside call, okay, to disallow a goal was not based on a millimeter. Guys, see that? It wasn't based on that much of the puck being over ahead of the player. Like, come on. Like, that's ridiculous. So the NHL's got to deal with this offside thing, but Board of Governors need to jump on this. Otherwise, Bettman's going to do nothing about it. I'm tired. If you want to make goals, why are you pulling them back? So get rid of that. If you don't call offside, you can't call it coach's challenge. I'm tired of the crap of a millimeter, and they get it wrong more often than they get it right. So anyway, I think this series would have the Wild ahead if it actually wasn't for some of the terrible refereeing and decisions that are happening by the NHL rules.
Just look no further, and I talked about this last week, Nick Hague and the calls he gets away with. And I know they let things go. I don't care. Fans want consistency. Call a penalty. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. I don't care if it tips the game. The fact that you don't call it tips the game. It
tips the game.
Yeah, like it affects the game. And when you get gambling involved, Evan, that makes an impact on how a team will do or not do.
Exactly.
Right? You get a player injured, whatever it may be.
Dude, It's 8:01. Let's finish with the Oilers, Kings.
We got a lot putting in. So let's finish off with
just the thoughts. Kings and Oilers. Kings and Oilers. Just what?
Okay. I was gonna say for the Dallas and the Colorado.
Okay,
even though Dallas is up,
you just do it.
Congrats to Landeskog for scoring. And I gotta tell you, Evan, he looks great on the ice. He has been competitive and intense. He doesn't look like he's missed a step. And although they did lose that last game in Dallas, you got to give it to the team because they're playing hard. I like what Dallas has done. This is a really back and forth. That's why I said in 7. But Colorado, like when they get going, they are unstoppable. You just need a little bit more from their depth centers, including Charlie Coyle. You need to get going. That being said, I like that Peter DeBoer gave Ottinger a break. He was able to reset. Both goalies have played outstanding, and both goalies have let in a few questionable ones. But this has been the most, to me, intense series. And either way, like we talked about at the beginning, you're losing a Stanley Cup caliber team at the beginning of the first round. That's all. Quick thoughts? No? We're finished with the Kings.
No, all I'm going to say is, Landeskog, what was your word for him? What was your word for Landeskog? You said
he's brilliant. He's excellent.
No. You said something else. You sounded like you like him. No, anyway, he is a brilliant guy, and I wish him all the best. It's a great story. Sorry guys, we've gone over, and I don't want to take a lot of time. There are a couple things I want to highlight based on what we need to work with here, and that is, if we don't share this right now, it's going to be too late by next week with our show. So again, I want to go back to officiating. You can talk about what your thoughts are in the game. The only comment I will say is Evander Kane is the difference maker in the Kings Oilers series. First game is just getting it back. He is back, baby, and he's making a difference. Second of all, I just want to talk about a couple things, and I want to talk about why I say the worst officiating I've saw. So I'm going to give you some numbers. So I went and pulled up. So in minor hockey, in minor hockey. Now I want you to catch this rule. It is in 6.4 in the section of the policies. Okay. If you are high stick, body checked, push, hit in any manner from behind into the boards or into the goal net in such a way you're unable to protect yourselves. Remember Kane into the net. Okay. Anyway, and you're unable to protect yourself, you will get a minor. The perpetrator will get a minor and a game misconduct. Also, if a defending player, while in the play, I want to talk about Byfield. If he falls on a puck, watch this, falls on a puck. If he picks up a puck, which he says he didn't do, if he holds a puck, which he says he didn't do, or he gathers a puck into his body or hands, it's a penalty shot. I believe the same rules, and they're even more sticky in the NHL. That is terrible reffing. Right from Toronto, they still messed up that call. It should have been challenged, but you can't challenge that because of the way it was set up, and there's no coach's challenge. They might as well make a coach's challenge and just keep the one. Maybe make it like in the NFL or something where you only got 1 or 2 and you still get a penalty, but you can't call more than 2, and allow everything to be a challenge. Maybe that's what they need to do because they got this wrong. They went against the rule book. The only thing is there's nowhere in the rule book that says they can't be biased and pick their team. Even against Edmonton, they made some not bad calls just against Edmonton, but they made some really bad penalty calls also against the Kings that were really sloppy. So the reffing has been terrible, but the series has been electrifying. Your thoughts, and we'll end with that.
For sure. I agree. I think it's a high-playing game. It's super fast, especially with McDavid skating as fast as he does. So it's hard to tell, is that actually a trip or, was it accidental? The puck, the hand-on puck by Byfield in the net. Okay, he missed it. Sure, it looked like it, but clearly there was so much going on. He was trying to keep an eye on it. He missed it. I should have been a penalty shot. I think the cross-check from Brandt Clark on Kane into the net, that was blatant. You can't do that. And he went in, and he could have been injured again with his shoulder, right? So that's where I'm just like, come on. Like, you can't let that happen. Granted, The call on McDavid from Gavrikov in the overtime, also questionable, especially given what we saw in the third period with Connor Brown's stick being slashed. I saw a few trips by Edmonton on them. Interference is one that I'm always confused about, goaltender things. What I got to say is that the more these refs do not take accountability in the public eye, the more scrutiny they're going to get and the more pushback they're going to get in terms of viewership, in terms of gambling revenue, and in terms of people being interested in wanting to bet on these games and be interested in these games. And you're teaching a whole generation of hockey fans, young and old, what is this? What is this call? Because every year, Evan, and this is just the first round, every year we learn about a new call and a new rule that allegedly everybody knew about, but really they don't. Even players and former officials like Dave Jackson disagree or like, well, this is because, or we think this is because. So the NHL better get it together. And maybe, sure, let's not talk about it in the regular season, but in the playoffs, have post-conference, post-series games where one ref representative comes out and says, this is what I saw. Keep the same refs for that whole time. Don't switch it up. I get that they try to do it. Same refs for every game. Stick to them. And post-conference series, what did you see throughout these plays? A couple of questions from media that are neutral bias that the NHL can approve. Simple as that. And yet they continue to dig a hole where they're like, and Gary Bettman will say this in a few weeks' time when he has his press conference before the Stanley Cup final. We have the best refs in the world, and there's no problem with it. Well, if that was the case, then why are fans so confused about what's going on? And why are, not even fans, why are players, coaches, and teams confused? And you're getting backlash from them. That's what it comes down to. So it's been an interesting series. It's been fun. It's not a rant. It's just Stripes get it together because you have your beer goggles on, and that's only for the fans, not for you guys. You guys need to pay attention.
Yes, get it right, and that was a rant. But that's it. As guys, we've come to the end of another week, and so as we say every week, in the meantime,
and in between time, keep your stick on the ice. Stay safe.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.